right, we're on it. Here we are. We are live, and welcome to what is the first of many debates that I would like to do. Johnny and I have been talking about it. Johnny from Tinfoil Hat and Broken Sim. We've been talking about having debates, and I have a bunch of people that I really love in the content space, and I've been watching our two guests here today. When the Conor McGregor case verdict dropped, I saw them both have very different takes on it. So let's get into it. Let me introduce both of them first. He is part of the Union of the Unwanted. He's on there all the time. He's been there since the jump. He is well known as one of the OGs of the conspiracy movement with his movie, which I think did a giant help build YouTube to what it is today, Loose Chains. Please welcome Jason Bermas. How are you, buddy?
Thank you, sir, for having me. And hopefully by the end of this, my opponent will concede that indeed Conor McGregor is a brutal, violent serial rapist. But that's really what I'm hoping for.
Let me introduce him before we get into it. And this guy's a good friend of mine as well. I've been following for a very long time. I've watched his YouTube channel just blow up. I've also watched him just do some sick jiu-jitsu tap out. So I'm very excited to have him on. Please welcome American success story, Jesse on Fire. How are you, buddy?
Thank you very much, sir. I like the jiu-jitsu. I like you add that jiu-jitsu thing in.
Well, dude, I've been watching you because you were telling me like you're going hard in the paint, and then I saw you just tap this dude out in some crazy ass choke, and I was very impressed. As a old man who does jiu-jitsu, I was very impressed with your nimbleness and been able to jump all over the place and choke the guy out. So I was very impressed.
Cartwheel to arm triangle.
Okay, yeah. So there we go. Yeah. So guys, here we go. The verdict dropped, and it came out, found guilty. Now, full disclosure, I am somebody who had good friends of mine who I felt got accused of some stuff that I believe they didn't do. So I'm always kind of hesitant to jump into anything, head first. I always love to go, what is actually happening here? And I love to hear all sides discuss it. So when this Conor McGregor verdict came down, I was kind of like, interesting, but is there more to the story? So we discussed before the beginning of this live stream that we were going to do a format in which Jason Bermas asked that Jesse go first and state his case, and then Jason would, in his own words, deconstruct it. Now, I'm going to give a time limit so we don't go one side. This is going to be a...
I hope that we can retort, but I just like to let him lay the case out, and then I can do that, and then I can present my evidence, and we can go back and forth on the evidence. I want this to be as fair as possible, Sam.
Okay, so do we do 5 minutes each first?
Give him all the time he wants. I can shut my mouth. I know I like to talk, but that's fine.
Johnny, if you have any thoughts, jump in as well.
Absolutely.
If you guys want to just do it as you do it, I'm fine with that too. So Jesse, you can go on. You can go. All I ask is that you guys don't talk over each other. I will make sure both of you get equal time to discuss whatever you want to discuss.
I'll mute myself when he does his turn.
Okay.
Let the record show that I would have advised against going in this order if I were on the other side, because this is not. Anyway. So let's just lay this out. So I literally just talked to one of my good buddies. I don't know, half an hour ago, and we were talking about the case. And here's the deal. So if you are a person who's been observing Conor McGregor's behavior for the last however many years, including incidents like where the woman on the boat, he just spazzed out and, kicked her and threw her off a boat. I believe that story for sure. The Italian DJ, it's 3 a.m. and Conor, for no reason, flashes on the guy and punches him in the face. I 100% believe that story. The story, you have a video of him literally for no reason going from like, hi, I'm just being a normal guy, to trying to attack Machine Gun Kelly at like an award show. And you're like, Jesus, man, this dude is incredibly unpredictable and potentially very violent, and you got the incident on the boat with the woman. And so you've already established like, okay, like it's not unreasonable to assume that this guy is going to be violent towards women because he's basically already established that he can be. So going into this case, you know, I'm just going to lay out how I heard about the case and what my opinion was initially. So the story comes out. My wife and I did a podcast episode on it, and we read the facts of the case per the details that were being covered in the media and basically from the story of the accuser and the medical reports. So the story from the accuser was that she's out partying with her friend. Her and her friend end up meeting up with Conor McGregor and his friend. They go to a hotel, whether she intended on, you know, hooking up with him or not. At a certain point, they're doing, well, super relevant. They're doing a ton of cocaine. They're drunk. And, which again, if you're on the side that where you're going to come into this thing biased, like I'm sure Conor did this, you could basically assume that in those other incidents, he's probably drunk and on cocaine. So they go up to the room, and apparently when they go into the room, she changes her mind. She doesn't want to have sex with Conor, and her story is that he beats the shit out of her, rapes her, and, you know, chokes her. And in the middle of, while he's choking her, he says, "Now you know how I felt when I got tapped out 3 times in the octagon." I'll come back to that. So they leave, you know, whatever happens, and she ends up getting home. She immediately goes to the police, you know, within 24 hours or 36 hours, whatever it is. The medical examiners and the ambulance, they all verify, you know, they testify. They're like, her injuries were extensive. And she had a tampon lodged into like her fucking throat. You know, it's like, okay, how does that happen if not by someone forcing themselves on this girl? So that's her story. She goes to the cops. Why would anyone not believe her? Like that seems cut and dry at first glance. So when we first covered it, oh, sorry, I got an echo for a second. I actually still have an echo. Okay, now it's better. So that's how we covered it. We were just like, Jesus, man, I don't know. I mean, like if it would have, if you take away the injuries, I think that I probably would have been skeptical just based on her behavior, which is, what the hell is she doing going to this penthouse with Conor and his friends at 7 a.m. after doing coke and drinking? Like, what does she think they're going to go do? So like, I have 3 daughters. I am always going to look at these situations from the perspective of like, you are responsible for your own decisions. Okay. Like obviously no man can just decide that he's going to beat the shit out of you and rape you. But at the same time, don't be a fucking idiot. Like, don't go to a celebrity's penthouse at 7 a.m. and expect that they are not there to have sex with you. They don't fucking know you. What do you think you're doing there? So that would have been my take. Then the facts of the case come out. And I had heard that there was a big group of people who were very adamant that Conor had not done this. And I'm like, I don't understand. How could you, like, why would you be on that side? So that's when I looked at the actual facts of the case. This is the most absolutely certifiably obvious lie that I've ever seen in terms of an accused rape case ever. And I mean, I've seen some crazy ones. Johnny Depp looked 100 times worse in the Amber Heard case that she was lying. The girl, you know, like Trevor Bauer, who got banned from Major League Baseball, who was specifically targeted by at least one of the girls who accused him, where like she's sending text messages in advance that she's targeting him to try to get $50 million from him, takes a video of herself after she had sex with him and then winks at her friends like, I'm about to get this motherfucker. Straight up predator. Now, I don't think that this girl was targeting Conor, because what we didn't talk about earlier in this case is that she has a boyfriend at home and a kid. Just bought a house with the boyfriend and the kid. So the entire time that she's out with Conor, okay, she is texting and lying to her boyfriend and her own kid, okay? And she's coked out of her mind. So she's sending DMs that are like this long, all right? Like lying. So you've established she's a liar. Does that mean she didn't get raped? No. However, then it turns out that when the cops, go and question Conor about this, Conor's like, this is an outright lie. And he's like, this girl's a whore. She had sex with my friend also. And they're like, your friend had sex. So he gets his friend to come into the police station. And he's like, this is nonsense. He's like, I had sex with this girl also 3 hours after Conor left. And the cops are like, you did it. So they go back to the girl And they're like, did you have sex with Conor's friend? And she's like, absolutely not. That's a ridiculous lie. That's made up. Of course I didn't have sex with Conor's friend. Conor's just trying to get his friend to cover for him. So they go to the CCTV and they look at the security footage. And first of all, obviously they verify that she was all over Conor before they got to the room. Not necessarily relevant. But then they verified Conor leaving the hotel room at fucking 10 in the morning. And then the two of her and the friend staying at the bar, drinking and laughing. And she's all over the friend. They're making out at the bar. This is the girl who supposedly got brutally beaten and raped 2 hours ago. And she's down at the bar, laughing her ass off, hanging on the friend, making out with the friend, all of that. And then they go back into the elevator and go back up to the penthouse, kissing in the elevator. And she's all over this guy. Okay. So right there, fuck you, you got raped. I don't believe you. Like there is not a person in the history of the world who was the victim of what they described to, having had happened to them by Conor. And then they're like, oh, and Conor left. That's the biggest thing. Conor took off. So your abuser's gone. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You can leave. You can go to the cops. You can go to your house. You can do whatever you want. No one who has been the victim of that crime is like, well, out of all the things I could do, I think I'm going to do more cocaine, hang out with his friends, and then fuck his friend also. Like that's not a thing that's ever happened. It's circumstantial evidence, but it's like bulletproof circumstantial evidence. No one has ever made that choice in the history of rapes ever. And any rape victim will tell you the same thing. So that happens. So when they bring the CCTV security footage to her, she said, and she's confronted with it. They're like, well, you said that they were lying, but they weren't. She goes, well, I don't remember that. And they're like, you don't remember that? She's like, I have no memory of that whatsoever. And they're like, well, you're on camera. So, I mean, that is what happened. So she says at that point that she was too drunk and to consent with the friend. They are showing her walking around. They're showing her talking to people, whatever. So at that point, the cops are like, well, we're not going to prosecute this case because out of all of the things that you've told us, you got 10 bullet points. There's 9 that we can. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, the girl who was there with them also talked to the cops and tested and then ended up, telling the same story to the cops and in the trial that she's lying. She's like, this is a lie. She's like, this, none of the things that she said happened. I was right outside the door when she was in the room with Conor. I actually, and the friend said that he looked in and saw the girl on top of Conor. The other girl said everything was fine. After they were done, they came out to the living room and we were all laughing and having a good time together until Conor fell asleep. And she's like, I saw nothing. In addition to that, when they, the girl went home. Now, throughout this whole thing, the girl is telling the other girl, like her friend's telling the other guy, she is really going to, I just got an echo. I don't know what happened. He said that she's really going to regret this. Like she just bought a house with her boyfriend and lives with the kid. So the boyfriend and the kid have been kind of like lingering around, like that. And then she also, after she had sex with the friend, the victim had sex with the friend. Cause they asked him, like, did you see any bruising or injuries on her? And he's like, none. He's like, as a matter of fact, there was like one really small one that was like on her wrist or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, small. And she brought it up where she was like, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to my boyfriend or fiance? And he said that he was just like, why are you talking about your fiance? Like literally, you just fucked me and my friend. Why are you talking to me about your fiance and how you're going to explain this one bruise? So verifies no injuries. Her friend says she's not injured. Her friend says none of the things she's describing happened. The other guy says none of these things happened. Conor said none of these things happened. The CCTV completely destroys her case. Every single thing that you could verify through either witness testimony or through the CCTV completely contradicts her case. There's not one thing that she said that got verified as true. The exact opposite. Every single thing she said has been verified as not true. So 9 out of the 10 things verified as not true. The only thing remaining is this tiny little window of time where it was just her and Conor, but you still have the witnesses testifying that it's not true. And that is that's the case. That's why that's why the cops were like, yeah, right. In addition to that, okay. So she goes home. The boyfriend obviously is going to be suspicious. She's been gone for multiple days. So like the question anybody's going to ask, and this is where I was hung up too, is like, well, how did she get those fucking injuries? And what about the tampon? So the injuries, this is simple. I think the boyfriend beat the fuck out of her when she got home, because no one's going to convince me that someone was the victim of that assault, given the absolutely overwhelming tsunami of verifiable evidence that she's lying. I think that the jury knew she was lying, but they were, 8 fucking women, 8, 12, and because they only awarded her $250,000. She's suing for like $4 million. So they're like, okay, yeah, I think that the jury did not realize that they were going to destroy Conor's life with this. Like, I think they were like, okay, just say that he's, I don't know, like say he's responsible for the assault, give her $250,000, let's be done. Because it takes incredible bravery to be a female and to a bunch of other females that you don't know very well, take a stand and be like, I think this bitch is lying. After she went up on the stand and cried her eyes out. Everyone said it was really, really emotional, whatever. And when I hear that, I'm like, does that indicate that she is telling the truth because she's crying? Or if I'm thinking through this woman's character, is she a person who is completely comfortable with lying to the point where she can basically convince herself that this thing is real and then hysterically cry on command like every other incredibly talented, manipulative woman? Like, my default was not that Conor was innocent. My default was that he was guilty until all of this stuff came out. It's like, all right, so if we're, like, I know the standard is that you attack witnesses' credibility. Obviously, that's standard procedure in court. Okay, but that doesn't mean that a person's credibility should not be questioned when they are testifying for something. Okay, like I think normally attacking rape victims is fucking wrong if they're unless it's so obvious that they're lying that you're like, okay, so I need to evaluate the likely truth of your testimony. There's only one way to do that, and it's to look at her behavior. So she was, before she's there, completely comfortable with lying to her boyfriend, lying to her kid, staying out and doing blow, fucking 2 different guys. Okay, actually, I guess that takes for granted that she consensually had sex with Conor. But after she got brutally, raped, this is the girl who made a decision that afterwards, whether she was drunk or not, she's like, gosh, what do I want to do? What do I want to do with myself? I'm going to get more drunk, do more blow, and have sex with his friend. Okay. She has paragraphs of lies. She has conversations verified with her friend that have been verified by police and everybody else that she was texting her, asking her to delete all of their text messages from that night. Okay. Like there is nothing that supports that she actually was raped except for the fact that she said it and she had injuries. There's nothing that connects Conor to the injuries whatsoever except for her word. And there is a mountain of evidence that says that he did not do it.
Okay. So
that's what I got.
I like it. That was a nice run. So Jason, would you laid out a very strong case, Jesse? So now, Jason, you will have 15 to 18 minutes I think about 15 minutes to give your side.
Thank you so much. So let's start with some of the arguments, like she's a liar. Okay. No doubt about it. Liars can be raped. That she's a mother. Mothers can be raped. That she has a boyfriend. Happens all the time. Let's put, first of all, into context how many days we're talking about here. Because this actually starts at a party with this other witness that he's talking about, supposedly her friend, but when she was on the stand, and by the way, there's a lot of things he said that did not happen, or I've seen no evidence in the case, and I was talking to journalists that were inside, but we'll get there. Okay? So you have this 2-day bender. They meet at some Christmas party that's an office party, and she's with this particular girl. Get through that whole night. They're contacted in the morning. That's where they pick up this other guy, James Lawrence, who's getting the cocaine for them. Okay, that's where this second guy comes in. He's the coke guy. All right. Now, we could get into the violence and the coke and those type of things. There's no doubt the guy's been a coke addict for a very long time and violent for a very long time. I just want to point that out. Now, according to Nikita, they were supposed to be going to a quote-unquote party at this penthouse. I believe there's like one other person that's there for a little while. So at most 5 people, and then it's down to those 4. Okay. Now we'll get into the witness, etc., and James Lawrence in a minute, and the CCTV stuff, because I think that's important. Okay. She apparently says no. Now, I have no doubt, by the way, in the text message argument that she's deleting things. Now, I think there's a number of reasons for that. Number one, when she goes into the hospital, which is almost immediately after this incident, she does go home. She does talk to the boyfriend. The boyfriend tapes their conversation. So it's ludicrous to think he beat her. I mean, they played that conversation in court. It was like a 20-minute conversation, and she's refusing to tell him the name of who raped her. Okay, and she may have told her mother prior to getting into the ambulance. That's not really clear, but she holds out for days naming McGregor. I just want to point that out also. That's also something that I think is extremely important. This isn't a money grab. So when she's told later on, when she does name him, that James Lawrence did this too, she has no recollection of that. Now, I want to just point to some stuff. I don't know if you want to full screen me. I don't know if you have to, but let's just go to this. So these are the things I was reporting on 6 years ago. This is a quote from the police. At the end of the day, there is no doubt this young lady suffered a horrendous ordeal. The examination and all of the evidence shows she was raped and very badly assaulted in that penthouse suite. Now, whether or not she can remember after the fact with James Lawrence, I have no idea, okay? He was saying making out, hanging out at the bar, having drinks. I didn't see that in the testimony. What I saw was the presentation of a victory dance, is what was referred to several times, and that she was on the arm and maybe kissed the person's arm. I saw nothing about making out or any of that stuff. If you've got that testimony, because all the testimonies out, in fact, I would also encourage people to go down the line, because you weren't allowed to have cameras in there, but reporting like this right here, this will get into the CCTV camera footage of inside the ambulance, okay? And, I want to read that down the line, because I think that's really important. You had Neil Dempsey, okay, first person. He said the woman was very distressed and had physical marks on her. The woman said she had been sexually assaulted and she was concerned about a tampon she had inside her, which had been there for some times. Heart rate elevated, okay? Sexual treatment center. When you get to the bruising in this case, it was very bruised and more bruised. And by the way, this person also said that they had treated a lot of these cases, more bruised than anybody they had seen. So now you have to think that this woman or her boyfriend assaulted her so badly, and then this tampon had to be out with forceps. Now, again, I mentioned that all this stuff was out in the public arena for a very long time, going back to just the threads here. And you want to know why she didn't want to name this person. He'd already been accused, okay? Let's go to this. So you have this where the police, by the way, she was trying to get members of the DPP to testify, only the rape victims. And inside that CCTV camera footage, by the way, you saw her in the ambulance. So they presented her beaten and bruised. I don't think that's in question, okay? So the reason she didn't want to do this is because, this guy's mob connected and has been for a very long time. Now, for those that don't know who the Kinahan family is, his sister is about to marry the number 3 guy, and he's always been connected to this person, okay? In fact, this woman, before the case actually happened, just again, so everybody's aware, I think, what was this? Just several months ago, I'm sorry, this is a different case. We'll get to that in a minute. That's the yacht case. Where is it? She had, where is it? There's so many of these cases. That's the whole thing. Let's see. Accuser of life. Where is it? Her home was invaded. There it is right there. Masked men came into her home, stabbed her boyfriend in the belly 3 times. 3 men came in, stabbed the boyfriend in the belly. He also tried to get another extension. A lot of people wonder why this case took so long. He was getting extensions for all these fights. That home invasion happened about 3 to 5 hours, depending on the reports, before his pinky toe was broke, and he had to call off the Chandler fight, by the way. Okay? He tried to get another extension with Dan Hooker. Now, when you look at that forensic evidence, again, media knew about this and kept totally silent about it. You had Pippa Doyle, you had Michelle Dardis. They were talking specifically, and this is one of the selling points to me, about the tampon, how badly beaten and bruised she was. So, I also hear about the money. These are all those WhatsApp text messages that had leaked. In fact, RTE, basically, somebody inside RTE was so disgusted with the case that essentially they're the ones that leaked that it was McGregor in the first place. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, she turned down $1 million payoff in 2019. Okay. Now I want people to think about this. This is pre-COVID. A lot of people are talking about this thing's political. The guy was calling for lockdowns in 2020. Okay. Nothing about this is political. No. I want to get that out of the way. He's not being taken out. She tried to get a criminal case. She turned down the $1 million. Now the $250,000 is probably barely going to, cover her legal costs. So you can't tell. I mean, it was talked about her being a marked woman. James Lawrence, also in the trial, is described as sweating the whole time. Now, with the text message thing, you want to prove to me that they're not in collusion? Have Lawrence and Conor McGregor show their text messages. Show how much she loved it and what they were saying after the fact. They presented none of that evidence. Of course they didn't. I have doubts whether she did have sex with James Lawrence after the fact. It does appear they did go to this other hotel. Lord knows what happened after the fact. Because, again, I believe that she was viciously beaten and raped because I just don't believe another human. I mean, with the tampon thing, with the fact that her neck, her shoulders, her arms, all the way down through her legs. The description is crazy. I can only imagine, again, what they were shown inside. All right. Now, I showed that arson thing, not only the stabbing. All right. And again, just not a great person. But when we are talking about the other incident, that woman that jumped off the boat, her car was firebombed. That's why she stopped with things there. But the incident a couple years ago at the Miami game, you see her going into a bathroom with Conor for sure, but they were going there to do what? Cocaine. And she alleges he just whipped it right out and tried to shove it in her mouth. Like, I hate to put it that way, but that's how it was. She tried to report it. They are talking after the fact, but look at those text messages. He has a long history of this. Okay, 6 months after this incident, he was accused again of dragging a woman into a car and forcing oral sex on her. Ruth Coppinger of the Parliament went on the House floor. And they weren't allowed to name him at the time. A lot of people, for instance, when you see these articles, it always says Irish sports star, right? And they have to do that because he hadn't been criminally charged. Everybody was telling me this wasn't even him at the time. They've run so much cover on this thing. Think about how the media is playing it out. Now, I'm not sure where I have it right here. I think I should play Nikita Hand, and you tell me whether this woman who just went through almost 6 years of her life on this, tried to get a criminal case. They would not give it to her. You can say it's because James Lawrence stepped in. Because again, she had to be told that she had sex with James Lawrence. Now, if she had had sex with him after the fact, I really think that would have come up somewhere. You call her a liar. Again, show me the evidence where they're talking about she knew. This isn't the first time that you would have someone else covering for Conor McGregor, okay? And he was acquitted, again, because she has no memory of any of it. I don't know how he could be convicted of that, right? With this whole deal, they've tried to make it about a civil thing. She wanted the criminal case. So let's just play her. And again, people can decide whether or not you think she's a liar. Here she is.
I would like to start off by saying I'm overwhelmed. I'm touched by the support I have received from everybody. First, I want to thank the Coleman legal team and my 3 barristers, John Gordon, Ray Boland and Sean. They have been amazing from start to finish. I want to thank Mr. Justice Alexander Owens, the jury, all the witnesses. I want to thank the doctors, nurses and everyone at the sexual assault treatment unit in the Rotunda Hospital for looking after me, especially my own Dr. Frank Clark. I want to thank the Rape Crisis Centre, especially Cleena, who has been by my side throughout this entire period. I want to thank all the guards and the ambulance crew. I want to thank all the women and men out there who have supported me throughout this trial. For every person who reached out to me, a card, a letter, email, everything, it hasn't gone unnoticed. Thank you, I really appreciate it so much. I want to thank my partner Gary, who has been so supportive for the last 4 years and has held my hand throughout this trial every day and every other day. I want to thank my mum and all my family and friends. Lastly, I want to thank my daughter Freya, who I'm most grateful for. She has given me so much strength and courage over the last 6 years throughout this nightmare to keep on pushing forward for justice. I want to show Freya and every other girl and boy that you can stand up for yourself if something happens to you, no matter who the person is, and justice will be served. To all the victims of sexual assault, I hope my story is a reminder that no matter how afraid you might be, speak up, you have a voice, and keep on fighting for justice. I know this has impacted not only my life, my daughters, my family and friends tremendously, and it's something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. But now that justice has been served, I can now try and move on and look forward to the future with my family and friends and daughter.
So, I just want to say this. You know, he had a little bit of an intro on who he was. You know, I'm a longtime MMA fan. I call MMA fights. I'm buddies with MMA fighters. When it comes to McGregor, I was never the hugest fan as far as a fighter. Got my respect when he beat Aldo and Alvarez. Never had anything out for the guy. I think the forensic evidence speaks for itself. I think the idea that this woman would put herself through this for any other reason and not, I think, and I'm not about canceling people, by the way. I think the guy should honestly be in prison. I think he's extremely dangerous. Okay, especially the mob ties. I went light on that. The home invasion, the firebombing, all the circumstantial evidence surrounding it too. Again, and I want to address the CCTV footage and the witness. I mean, so many people have dropped out before. The eyewitness saying, you know, essentially they didn't know each other much. They went into a room together. She didn't seem off after the fact. I don't think that's huge. Again, I didn't see any reporting of making out and that type of thing. I could be wrong. If I can be shown that, okay. I'll say this. I did get contacted by journalists inside as the case went on. They were all very careful. And I asked them specifically about the kiss on the arm and the victory dance and what they had seen, and I got no responses from them. Now, whether or not the public's going to get access to that stuff eventually, I guess we'll see. Sam, I think you were there on the Union of the Unwanted about a week before the verdict. I called it. I said, there's no way that he's not going to be found liable in this case, but they're going to spin it and say this wasn't a criminal case and that she was some kind of a gold digger. Again, how much? She's probably not walking away with any money at all. The legal fees on this thing, I can't imagine it. So, again, circumstantial, physical, you can't, the boyfriend, to me, that argument, it just doesn't hold water. They played, like, from the time within, I think, her walking in that door, he was recording their conversations. And they played that in court. It was 20 minutes long. I only saw the transcript of it, but he's trying to get her to admit to stuff. You know, he's not happy about it, but she's also beaten. So, and they're talking about the physical thing. So, you know, I'm gonna wait for some counter arguments, and I think we can go from there.
All right. So you guys got about the same amount of time. So Jesse, would you like to counter?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, like, you know, I think it's important for me to kind of like make sure that my position is very clear. I'm not arguing for Conor's character. I wouldn't dispute any of the things that have been laid out about his connections to the Kinahan, you know, cartel. I know all of those things are true. Like I said, I established at the very beginning, I believe the girl from the boat. And I definitely believe the Italian DJ. So we've established the guy is incredibly unpredictable, which is why I understand why people believe her story. And it's like, this is literally only about this one case. And when it comes to, you know, her press conference afterwards or any of that stuff, like if someone has established to me that they are a liar, I do not take anything that they say as evidence in either direction, unless they have an incentive to say one thing or the other. So as far as the injuries go, again, I 100% believe that the injuries were there. I have no idea how they got there. The boyfriend is complete speculation. I have no idea. What I do know is that I feel comfortable enough understanding human behavior to say that a person who, like, what is a more traumatic thing that you can go through than having a professional fighter beat you, you know, rip your clothes off, and have sex with you against your will? There's nothing worse for a guy or a girl. It's basically the most traumatic thing that could possibly happen to you. Okay. No one is going to convince me that a person who would go through that is going to voluntarily be like, wow, well, listen, we still have access to this amazing hotel. Let's stay here and have some extra drinks. Whether she's making out with the guy or not, the fact that that is what she chose to do, to continue to party, it completely disqualifies her story from my perspective. And because obviously the testimony from the other two, Conor could just pay them. Say that none of this is true. That's easy. It's the CCTV, which is what, I'm not a person who's going to go and stick my reputation on the line defending a guy who's accused of the most horrendous, violent assault ever, unless there is a piece of evidence that in absolutely unequivocal terms makes it to where I don't know. That's just not true. That is not a thing a person would do. And here's the thing. So we've established Conor unpredictable. You can question his character. Well, in my experience, people with questionable character associate with other people who have questionable character. And this, if you just take Conor's stuff out of it and just examine her behavior that is 100% verified, she chooses to, and we're not talking about oopsie, met Conor at a club and something happened. We're talking premeditated, tons of messages between her and Conor, throwing herself at him for hours online before he picks her up. Choosing to go with Conor, do cocaine, drink, all this stuff, go to a hotel room with Conor the entire time, writing well-structured, long DM or message lies to her husband or fiance and kid. Okay. Her character is bad. She is it doesn't matter how many drugs you're on, drunk. That is not a thing that a good person is going to do ever. Lie to your kid. Be literally writing messages to your own kid while you're hang on for a second, guys. Hey, mommy's just, mommy's learning how to do some hair cutting and blah, blah. This is so the fact that Conor has questionable character and has a history of this stuff is irrelevant as it relates to her character. Now, the tampon thing, I want to address a few things. Number one, when she said that when he choked her, okay, so if you want to look for it, because all you have that says that Conor's the one who put the injuries on her is her word. So let's look at her story from that particular segment of the night. She said that Conor was choking her, and he said, and I quote, "Now you know how I felt when I tapped in the octagon 3 times." I cannot stress enough, there is a fucking 0% chance that Conor said that. That is the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard. No person, no one who knows anything about anything would believe that Conor said that, okay? First of all, if you look at that sentence and you're is this more likely something someone said or something that someone made up? Okay, you have Conor, who would absolutely never say that for a million different reasons, and then you have girl who's trying to think of a story, and it's Conor choking. What makes this believable? Conor choked in the octagon. That's the level of strategy you're talking there. Because when you actually are a person who does jujitsu or does combat sports, whatever, choking people and getting choked is fucking standard procedure. If it's Jesse, would you tell me about getting choked? I'd be dude, I got choked 9 times in the last 2 sessions. And I choked 6 guys.
Jesse, can I just jump in and ask you where you got that quote? Because I'm not finding it, and I certainly, again, I found.
I've got that all over the place.
Could you find? Because I had the threat to kill her. As far as him bringing up tapping 3 times in the octagon, I still haven't seen that anywhere that it was presented in court. But again, if it's there,
I have it right here. I have it right here from AP News. Here,
and what is the exact quote?
Here, I'm sending it to you right now, and I'll read it.
Bring it up on your screen, and I'll.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Bring it up on your screen. Go to share screen.
Yeah, I got it. All right. So, Conor McGregor must pay $250K to a woman who says he raped her. Civil jury case. So, hang on. Let me just find it. Okay, here you go. McGregor put her in a chokehold and later told her, "Now you know how I felt in the octagon where I tapped out 3 times," referring to a UFC match when he had to admit defeat. First of all, he didn't get choked 3 times. He's gotten choked twice, but nonetheless. So that's where it is right there. Put her in a chokehold. Now you know how I felt in the octagon where I tapped out 3 times. Absolutely ludicrous. 0% chance that's true whatsoever. So how do I take this down? Oh wait, no, I know.
I'll take it down. You want that?
Oh, I got it. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Oops,
So,
sorry.
so that line is a lie. Okay. Then the other thing is, so I want to talk about that, and then there was another thing I wanted to respond to that is blanking right now. Oh man, it'll come back to me. I wanted, like, there was that, and then I know what it was. So the other thing was, I think it's important to note. Oh, this is really important, actually. Sir, first of all, very important to note that the partner she's with now is not the one that she was with when this happened. Okay, like if you heard, he's been so supportive for 4 years. This happened 6 years ago. This is a new guy. So the guy who she was together with when this happened is gone. Okay, they bought a house together and they lived together. There's no way to know what that actually indicates in terms of their relationship. But what it is important to note that the guy that was with her, that she was lying to and all of that, is not her boyfriend anymore. So if you're going to establish that this is not a cash grab, because I agree, I think it didn't originate as a cash grab. It's like, why would she say this if it wasn't true? And to me, this is incredibly straightforward. She got caught. Like this, this. Here's the other thing. When I talk to some people about this, and this is actually a compliment to them, it's like, do you have experience with girls who would do cocaine all night and have sex with multiple of your friends? Okay. Because I've never been one of the guys. I've been in the room one time that I can think of where a girl had sex with multiple of my friends. Okay. Like, they exist. I promise. Now, do I have experience with girls who are fucking stone-faced cheating liars? 100%. And so can I predict how someone would behave in a situation like that, where they're like, there's a certain type of person, both, man and woman, where they're in the moment, they're partying, and they're making absolutely goldfish decisions where they're like, whatever, I'll deal with this later, lie. And then when they get caught, they are literally going to say anything to get them out of that situation. My theory on how this originated was she got fucking caught. She just got caught, like, in one way or another. And that's how she had to explain it, was, I was raped or whatever. And the thing about the tampon, which would have been extremely compelling to me normally, the only reason it wasn't is because a year ago, my wife was working with this girl who was notoriously like, she had a husband and she was very unsatisfied in her marriage. This is not like my wife's like friend, is someone she worked with, but she worked really closely with her, and so we knew all this stuff. And like, she was cheating on her husband all the time, and she's a lush, like, would get wasted and go cheat, whatever. And so she was like a topic that we would talk about. And she had that exact thing happen, like where she had sex with some dude, forgot she had a tampon in, and it got stuck. And when Gabrielle told me that story, the reason it stuck in my mind is because I was like, the idea of anything being in that dirty ass girl's vagina makes me want to literally puke into my mouth. And the fact that it got stuck, she had to go to the doctor to get it removed, was fucking horrifying. So it like burned itself into my brain. So I'm like, okay, so this is a thing that happens. This is like, like I said, within maybe 2 years, but whatever. It's something that had happened, and it was obviously very consensual. So again, I'm not moved by the tampon thing because of that. And this girl's behavior sounds just like that girl. And again, my theory on how it started and not being a cash grab, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think that once she got into the thing, she's committed now. Like, she has said, I got raped by Conor. So all these people around her are behaving like this happened, and she's stuck. Like, I know it's 6 years later, but like, she told her mom that. She told her dad that, or whoever. Like, she told all these people that. She can't walk away from it, because if that really happened, you have to be like, you're all in now, dude. Like, that's what you said. And I think the reason she wasn't saying Conor is because she did not want to do anything about it legally, because she's fucking lying. She's trying to talk her way out of, I was doing cocaine and had sex with a celebrity in a penthouse, and then his friend. Now, the thing about James being the coke guy, I actually didn't know that. And him being like kind of a mystery, and me still not really knowing how the injuries actually happened. I mean, is it possible that when they went back up there, that Conor's friend is the one that beat the shit out of her and took it? That's not impossible. Like that to me, that is another area where that actually, honestly, probably makes the most sense out of any theory that I can think of, if they're saying that the injuries were consistent with a violent rape. But we're talking about Conor McGregor. He's the one that she sued. Is there like I don't know why she would have, you know what I mean? Is there a world where she said Conor, but it actually happened with the friend? Totally. And if, I didn't hear the recordings with the boyfriend, I have no reason to think the boyfriend is more likely to have beat the shit out of her than Conor's friend. But what I can say confidently is Conor didn't do it because, again, her behavior after and all the things that I've laid out.
Jason?
Yeah, I again completely disagree. Let's talk about, I ran a bar before I getting back into this. So I had about 20 hot, 20-something-year-old chicks that like to party. And like you said, there are those type of girls that want to stay up all night, do cocaine, have sex with multiple guys. They exist. I've been around them. That doesn't mean they also can't be raped. Also as, a child of somebody, who was a cocaine addict and dealer, well before the days of text messages, you don't tell your kids what you're doing. It might not have been a text messages that I was cutting hair, but certainly maybe a phone call. Hey, we're doing, I'm hanging out with this person or I'm visiting this aunt, blah, 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 blah. Listen, when you're on cocaine, you're a liar. Let's be honest. I mean, Sam, I think that having a substance abuse.
Never lied on cocaine, ever.
You're
Always
the only person I know. You are the only person I know that has never lied on cocaine. I will say that it does make you a true sociopath and psychopath if you go down the dark routes. So, again, I'm not compelled by that evidence. As far as Lawrence's testimony, described by journalists, he was sweating on the stand. He was very uncomfortable up there. I'll let people decide for themselves. As far as the CCTV footage and what she was doing after the fact, I got to tell you, you know me, Sam. I'm a big source material guy. I'd like to see that CCTV footage, all of it myself, and make my own interpretation. I think, Jesse, you would agree. Again, for me to be compelled to think that somehow she was partying after the fact hardcore, I'd have to see it for myself because, again, what I saw described was the victory dance was played upon and the kissing on the arm thing. All right. Now, if what she described is true and she's even blacking out because Conor says they both had sex with her twice, right? That's the whole thing. There's also the possibility that Lawrence is the one that ends up rescuing her after the fact. That would be before the sexual encounter and, basically taking her wherever. And she's just thankful. Again, I don't know. I'm speculating on that. She's very adamant. She has no recollection of after that fact. And that's from the time she's in the ambulance, from the time she's given statements 6 years ago, all the way up until court. And I do believe her. I mean, when you are on I think by that point, a 2.5, it's 3 days later, she gets picked up at her house in her pajamas after the fact, probably no sleep after the incident. I don't know that you'd necessarily remember everything. Then again, I don't do cocaine. I've never blacked out in my life. And I've had some benders. You too, Jesse? Good
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Just a super fast.
Mm-hmm.
What has she done to earn your faith in the things that she said?
The forensic evidence for me is just so over the top that I just find it hard to believe. I don't know where she gets those injuries. I know you've speculated on it, but when you go into detail on the ambulance worker and the other one, they say it's all consistent, not only with rape, but like the most violent rape they've seen. And as far as that quote that you said, the guy's a psychopath. I don't doubt he'd say something crazy like that. Hey, who knows how many days he'd been up doing cocaine? Like that's the other thing. I think that we can't argue. It's a joke, like you saw his apology, right? That he shouldn't have stepped out on his wife. Dude, you saw the video of him at BKFC grabbing the chick's hair while his wife's in the room. As soon as this happened, by the way, and I found out about it in January, maybe 3 weeks after the incident. So it happens in December of 2018. January, I find out just before the Super Bowl. They rolled that motherfucker out in the Super Bowl with his kid in matching purple suits, playing him up like a family man. Every time this has been discussed, it is you're not allowed to talk about it. Remember when Cowboy came in for that fight and the New York Times finally reported on this and they asked the question? Dana didn't say nothing. Conor didn't say nothing. Cowboy jumped in and said, hey, we're here for a fight. We're not talking about that today. Everybody's been railroaded on this subject, okay? And there's been numerous instances of violence and sexual abuse. I also hear, the argument all the time, oh, famous people, they get accused of this all the time. That's true. But normally not multiple times, never with this amount of violence, okay? And I can name, a baker's dozen celebrities where this never happens to. Look, I'm not a believe all women's guy. You know this. I often point, if you think about the media coverage of Tyson back in the day, who you could argue in combat sports, they were same levels, right? That's a he said, she said thing to me, right? She doesn't come out beaten and bruised. It's not a cocaine party. She's up there alone with the guy, etc. It's not part of a 3-day bender. There's many things on that case, and the media covered that. They didn't touch it here. And I think, again, I don't think it's just the Kinahan stuff. Why would they not want to touch it? One of the things I didn't hit upon is when we are, and you talked about the criminal thing. When you talk about criminal prosecutions at the time in Ireland, this is horrendous, but it's true. Only 1 in 12 rape convictions goes through. Now, don't get me wrong, there's pleas and all that other stuff, but we know most women don't even report this, right? Now you're up against a celebrity. We're not just talking to celebrity. He's a multi-billion-dollar guy to ESPN, WME Entertainment, Disney, the UFC. They're talking about him fighting again. He's never going to fight again, but just talking about it, having him on something.
Oh, he's going to fight.
Well, he'll fight.
He has to now.
No, well, he'll fight a circus fight if they let him. He'll do something like Jake Paul. He's never fighting real competition again. But anyway, look at this. That's 8%, bro. That's crazy in Ireland. Okay, whether you believe some women, there's no way that 11 out of 12 women that reported to the police are lying, right? Like, let's at least agree on that. And I'm not saying there aren't manipulative, lying women. I'm not even saying this woman is not a manipulative, lying woman, all right? I'm saying, bar none, the forensic evidence, the tenacity and behavior in this case, the desire for still, with that 1 in 12, to try to get a criminal case on this, the desire to bring the police themselves in to testify, which they would not, the way Lawrence acted, how this whole thing went down. And again, my knowledge firsthand of how people on cocaine act. I have dated some of those crazy girls over the years. You know what I mean? They'll lie right to your face and smile while doing it. So I don't think any of that plays into it. But let me just say this. I want to see as much as the firsthand forensic evidence as possible. The eyewitness stuff is great. Obviously, I would prefer, to actually see the testimony videotaped wise, other than just transcripts. But that's what I've always based my stuff on. And look, you can say the circumstantial stuff about the model being thrown off the boat, about the fact that her car was firebombed don't matter. I think it does, right? It shows a pattern of behavior. And you've had Khabib come out in 2019, call him a rapist. Everybody ignored that. Islam Makhachev, current champion, just came out, called him a rapist, said that there's going to be even more stuff coming out about him. And look, I'm sure there is. One of the things, again, and this is a character thing. I don't care if you cheat on your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. Like, if that's between you and her, right? She's spouting off. I think 2 days after the cowboy fix, he's passed out. It's the night after, but the video surfaces 2 days later. He's passed out in some chick's bedroom, and she's got a selfie cam going. And she's going, well, we made it, Ma. We made it. I know there's crazy women out there. That woman wasn't beaten and bruised, and she made it. She was in full force. This woman, to me, was not. I don't think that she's gone psycho for 6 years. I'm not even. Who knows what kind of meds she's been on, off of. These are issues we've always talked about, Sam. The bottom line is the forensic evidence, the top to bottom documentation. She didn't wait. She was scared shitless to report the name over and over again. The other guy ends up being even a surprise. If that's not a surprise to her, right? Especially, he went in, I believe it was January 17th or 18th. Let's see, we'll go right here. Here it is right here, January 18th. So this is when he was actually questioned for this. That's the point where James Lawrence comes in. So now you're telling me a month after the attack, and she's finally named the guy in a criminal case, she just happened to, not mention that there was some kind of a sexual encounter with the guy. I'm not buying that either. And that was their defense in court. They said that they had colluded together. So again, if they had nothing to hide, Conor may have deleted his text messages if he had nothing to hide other than from D. What's Lawrence's excuse? Wait, show me all the text messages where they're like, oh, what a party last night, and she was all in, and all this. No, I bet you their text messages show a very, very different thing. But again, that can't even be discussed. I would love to see a criminal case. But again, a criminal case in Ireland, does that even work with 1 out of 12 and all those obstacles? I don't know that it does. I'll stop ranting and raving because I got a whole nother thing to do at the top of the hour after this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse,
so here's what I was going to say is like, it's like counter to my kind of basic makeup to be arguing against a girl who was the victim of whatever. But again, I want to reiterate, I am not talking about Conor's character. I'm not talking about any of those other cases. I am solely talking about this particular incident and this particular woman. And the bottom line is, if somebody told me that CCTV of her remaining at the hotel and partying with that James did not exist, that would change literally everything for me. But the fact that it does exist, that's the thing that I can't get past. Because as soon as we can establish that, which she's acknowledged at this point, and that she had sex with him because she sued him for sexual assault afterwards. So like, this is my issue with your law.
She didn't really acknowledge it because she was like, I have no memory of it happening or beforehand, but that was the only way to get him into court because he had claimed it. I just want to make that clear. So, it wasn't like the route. So, yeah. Go ahead.
So that is my issue with your logic on that, is that you have two options. One is that she just doesn't remember any of it and she got completely blindsided by it. Or your option is, if she admitted that to the police, they would automatically know that her story about Conor is a fabricated lie. So you have to assume that she really actually blacked out 2 hours after something she remembers every detail of while she's doing cocaine. And Sam, is that something that happens from doing cocaine? Do you do cocaine for 2 hours and then black out? Because in my experience, it's the exact opposite of that. You might be up all night, but your senses are sharpening. Your memory is sharp. You're not going to black out after 2 more hours of doing blow. So that doesn't make sense to me at all. And then also, like, again, she left that out because it blows her lie apart if she admits it. When she's confronted with the video evidence, only then, when she's completely stone caught, does she change her story. You know what I mean? It's like, but again,
I don't think that she changed her story. When we're talking about this, I want to make it really clear. First of all, we don't know whether she was drugged, how much alcohol was involved after the fact, right? Now, Conor's DNA was inside of her. Let's make that also very clear.
He had sex with her.
Hold on. James was not. So again, it was never in
prison. He used a condom.
Well, that's what he says. But again, there's no DNA evidence of him doing that either, where there is DNA evidence of Conor. So that's also, I'm not saying that, again, the condom thing wouldn't preclude that, but let's just say they didn't find a pubic hair. They didn't find anything like that. Okay. So her lawyers came out and said they believed that they were colluding together to create a narrative to confuse the story. I want to make that. And the only recourse they had was to bring him to court, not because they believed that he sexually assaulted her, because that was his confession and what he had said to the police.
She sued him for sexual assault.
Well, again, there was no other route to get him into this court case, right? Because they were in it together. This is an evening together. They made it very clear that they weren't looking, they weren't even sure it happened, and they doubted it happened from the beginning. I just want to put that out there. That's in the case.
Sure.
So go ahead.
Again, but like, there's no way to know for sure that he had sex with her, but they have hours of them hanging out in the bar, kissing his arm, whatever, and then them going into the elevator and back up to the penthouse where he says they had sex, which obviously lines up with just standard human behavior. And, again, like, that logic really doesn't make sense to me. Why would they want to bring him into a case when he is going to directly contradict her story when it comes to Conor, and then put this fact pattern together that supports that she's not telling the truth about Conor? It doesn't make any sense to me that she would want to bring him in. It's one of those things, again, that's like the way it probably played out. She makes up the story to explain how, again, I have no idea about the injuries. I'm not going to pretend I do. But then once, she's like, yeah, no, it's just Conor. And then they're like, no, it wasn't. Here's you on camera. And then she's like, oh, all right. Well, then I guess I don't remember that. And it brings it. It's like, it seems, it just like, I can't buy the sleepwalking after brutal, violent grape. And then, just went down to the bar to have some drinks. Like, it doesn't matter how drunk someone is. Doesn't matter how coked out they are. If someone beats the living shit out of you and rapes you, you are not hanging out and having drinks afterwards. If that did not happen, then my opinion changes. If it did, which I've seen, my entire argument is based almost exclusively on that fact. Stayed at the hotel, had drinks after, and did not have any marks on her. And both people testified she was not injured at the time. From there, every other thing, I'm like, I don't believe it then, because that right there kills the entire case. Like the podcast Serial, like one of those first massive true crime podcasts, where it was like, did Adnan do it? Did he not do it? Yada, yada, yada. And there's all this like kind of circumstantial stuff that he didn't do it. But the part that I always come back to, I'm like, he fucking did it, man, is the fact that the guy that they established for 100% sure was with Adnan that entire day, he is the one who knew where the victim's car was. They hid the car and he took police directly to the car, which means if Adnan is with this guy 100% was involved because he's the only one that knew where her car was. And if Adnan was there, explain to me how he did not do the murder, because all this other stuff is fucking noise, nonsense. And that's exactly how this case is to me, where it's like, if she's down there partying, noise, unless there is something that absolutely definitively shows that Conor did this. Otherwise, I don't believe it.
You're muted, Sam.
You both had really strong arguments. Johnny, do you have any thoughts as we wrap this up?
Jason, now I wasn't quite clear. Maybe you said, do you doubt that she went down and partied after, or does that just not hold weight for you?
So again, from what I've seen reported in there, as far as her having drinks at the bar, I know that I think they reported her in the bar area. I wasn't even sure it was the same hotel. I thought that they may have actually gone to a separate hotel, her and James Lawrence. I may be wrong about that. But again, from what I saw, the two things that the the defense put on was that she did some type of victory dance that was described as such. I have no idea what that means, et cetera. I don't know the context. And then also that she was on an arm and kissed an arm. I saw nothing about making out or partying after the fact, et cetera. Other than I believe it was the eyewitness, the woman that was with her, that said after they came out, they had drinks. I don't know that was caught on CCTV camera footage that may have been in the hotel. Again, I'd like to see the footage. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I would.
Let me ask this:
1,000%.
If it did happen that way, would it change what you think?
If it happened that I could see her partying and doing a victory dance and making out with the guy after the fact, I'd certainly, I would certainly consider it. But I would also want to see the clarity of the footage, the timeline, and again, if she's totally blacked out at that point, there's a thing called GHB, everybody. You know, we haven't talked about the fact that there's a possibility that she was drugged too after the fact. I mean, I'm not saying that happened, but to dismiss that, again, after the amount of physical trauma, I can't imagine, sticking around and partying in a bar for hours. I don't think that's what was presented in that case. I think, again, they were in that area. There was some footage inside I believe, an elevator as well. I don't even know what the quality is, right? I would doubt that from the quality I'm going to be able to see any kind of injuries, especially if she's clothed, etc. But once again, if she's clothed after the fact, she's down there partying, that would put some doubt in my mind. But I can't get over the forensics at all. And the fact that when you look at the trauma and the fact that she cried rape from the very beginning, I don't believe the ex-boyfriend or whatever would have had anything to do with it. The way the case has been handled after the fact, I just can't see any other way. And then again, I know that it's supposedly circumstantial. The guy doesn't have the best track record with women, okay? And again, a media that's so happy to put.
I don't think that's circumstantial. I think that's super important to note.
I would be circumstantially
a pattern
informed,
of behavior,
right?
which is why I believed it at first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's a bad thing. Okay, and that's the other thing. I don't think this guy's done. All right, and I don't think we know everything about him. I think he's a very bad person. And to me, this has never been about a cash grab. Hell, Sam, you know how much I love MMA. I love being the poor man's Joe Rogan. I'll never, get to the level where I'm calling UFC fights. Let's be honest. And, I would point to an interview that Dana White recently did. Because if you don't think Dana and the boys know all this stuff, I mean, when I did this for an hour on Alex Jones at InfoWars, I pissed Jones off so much that Sunday he went off about it for 20 minutes. So, look, I pushed some buttons. But Dana White on the Two Bears, One Cave podcast starts talking about Conor McGregor and how smart he is and how intelligent he is and, the business dealings. And then almost in the same breath, the next thing he talks about when they're talking about his work there, he goes, you know what my job is? He goes, there's a lot of bad guys that do bad things that are in this sport. And my job is that you don't know about it. I mean, straight up says that. Like
that is crazy.
He said, I don't know whether it's a Freudian slip or whatever. Go watch it yourself. But he literally says that. He says there's a lot of bad dudes.
Oh, I could.
Yeah. And he goes, it's my job that you don't know about it. Damn straight. And if anybody doesn't know who Ari Emanuel is, who essentially took the UFC, it was such a badass, all right, that he took the investment the Saudi Arabians made pre them selling on Wall Street, which was substantial at the time, and just handed it back to them because of the Jamal Khashoggi thing before they went public and they made no money on it. That's how bad
I agree, dude. Listen.
I mean, Ari Emanuel, guys, he's Ari from Entourage. His brother is Ram.
Dude. He's got very deep ties to Mossad, very deep ties to a lot of stuff. Guys, this has been a great discussion. I'm going to end on this. Conor has a history, and sadly, guys, we've just seen this with Alex Pereira. I've seen it in my own life. Just craziness. There of women saying stuff that isn't actually true. So what I'm going to say to this is a enigma of a case. There's a lot of stuff that suggests it did happen, and then there's things that don't make sense that make you go, I don't think this happened. And it just really sucks that we're in this kind of place right now where we have to kind of be like, I don't know if it's real or not. And that makes me sad because I have two daughters. And you both put out great arguments. Both of them are great. I agree we need the CCTV footage. And
I don't even think we disagree. I actually don't think we disagree. I think we're just literally I honestly don't even think we disagree. Because if I'm just assuming that the CCTV footage that's described is real, and if it's real, because if it's not, then I retract my argument.
And I respect that, by the way. And I like that we could, by the way, Sam, facilitate a real conversation here. Because, you
guys are great. There was no screaming. I was very impressed.
There's no need to be on any of these subjects. We should be able to have civil discourse, not only on something like this, which, look, to me isn't trivial, especially because if you look at this guy, they're trying to get him involved in politics. They love people that are compromised in politics. Yes. Can't get enough of it. I don't want to see that happen. Number two, it's just so many people, for instance, kind of his side of the argument is coming from these conservatives, etc. Obviously, Andrew Tate, you see Candace Owens. I saw Roger Stone jump in. They don't know a third of the things that we just talked about in this case. And Jesse seems to know a lot about him, led with the woman being thrown off the boat, didn't come from a place of ignorance. You know what I mean? I think maybe some of the things that, again, the making out, I hadn't seen that, et cetera, but I also hadn't seen that quote. So look, I'm a human being. I'm going to make mistakes. I don't think I've made a mistake on this one. But I think that we also all agree that the more source material, the more firsthand information that you don't have to rely on he said, she said, the forensic evidence is what matters.
All right, guys. Well, it was I respect you both very much. It went way better than I thought it was going to go. You both were respectful of each other. I think you both came out here with strong arguments. I want to thank the 2,000 people that watched this live. We changed the time You guys obviously both have a great following and are loved by your fans that they would tune in and watch. And again, this is a dangerous, dangerous conversation because if you go, hey, man, I don't think this is real, you really put your neck on the line. So I respect that, Jesse. And Jason, I respect your research as well. You've been doing it for a long time. Thank you guys both for coming on. We appreciate it. Either of you guys can do whatever you want with this footage. It's up to you. I release it to you guys. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to everybody tuning in. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Go to samtripoli.com. Check out my dates. I'm going to be in Tampa Bay this Friday coming up. And then I'm
Come to Austin.
Bro, I'm doing it on the I'll be there on the 18th, dude. We'll hook up December 18th.
December?
Yep. So
let's go.
Up. All right.
Okay.
And check out chaostwins.com. Grab your copy of the latest issue of my comic book. Anything else you guys want to promote at all?
Just follow my ex.
Yeah, follow me
Real
on
Jesse
X
on
too.
Fire.
Yeah.
Real
X
Jesse on
Jason
Fire.
Bermas.
Yeah, I couldn't find it, so I couldn't tag you. Get in on it, Jesse, because I think you'll love what's happening on.
You couldn't find it, so I'm shadow banned. I fucking knew it, dude.
Go for it. Anything, Jason?
At Jason Bermas on X also, and then I got a show 5 days a week over at Patriot.tv, Making Sense of the Madness, 5 Eastern. Go check it out.
Okay, Johnny, anything?
My show's on YouTube. Jesse on Fire on YouTube, and then Real Jesse on Fire on X.
Okay, Real Jesse on Fire on X? Okay, we'll get that. Johnny, anything?
New Broken Sam is out tomorrow. Check it out.
All right, guys. We love you. Thank you for everything. We'll talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
guys.
Take care, everybody.
Later.